The biggest so-called We Buy Any House companies actually have entire categories of properties they won't buy. They don't tell you up front. But I've worked in and around these companies for nearly 15 years. I know exactly how they operate. So in this video, I'll show you what they will and won't buy, how far the price drops the moment your property gets complicated, and why many sellers have other quick, simple options that can net tens of thousands of pounds more. Two quick things to clear up before we jump in. First, We Buy Any House isn't one company. No one owns the name like they do with We Buy Any Car. So it means there's dozens of companies that all sound the same. Second, We Buy Any House companies are known by all sorts of other names as well. So house buying companies, cash house buyers, quick sale companies, they all mean the same thing. So in this video, I'm talking about the whole category, not any single company, right? So housekeeping done. Now, do they really buy any house? From the name, you would assume yes, but the answer is actually no. So here's what's going on. So the whole We Buy Any House, any condition thing is built to make you picture a certain kind of buyer who's bold and cash rich and happy to take a punt on anything. In reality, though, these companies are really careful buyers. The real business for these companies is dead simple. They buy at a discount, they sell at full value, and then they do it again. Buy, sell, repeat. And the best way to do that for them is buying simple houses with quick turnover. The whole thing runs on speed. So the last thing they want is a property that clogs up the machine, meaning they don't want to spend months managing builders, fixing subsidence on something, or spending a year untangling some legal mess. That's time and that's risk, and it kills the model. So it's actually their job to avoid that sort of tricky stuff. Now, every now and then, one of these companies makes the headlines buying something mad. There was a house on a crumbling cliff edge sliding towards the sea, and a company snapped it up. But here's the thing, I know the company involved. They just bought it as a PR stunt. So in normal business, they don't really buy any house, which leaves the question, well, what do they avoid then? And might they avoid yours? Well, from 10 plus years working in this industry and from speaking with sellers every week who get rejected from some of the major companies, the reality is they want three things. And if you can get these clear in your mind, you'll know how any company will likely treat your home before you even pick up the phone. And we'll talk about later in later sections, you'll know if you've got way better options as well. So first, they want something that is easy to value, right? So picture a 3-bed semi in a suburb of like 500 others like it. Houses like it sell every month, so it's really easy for a company to pin down exactly what this one is likely to sell for. So it's easy for them to make an offer where they know they're going to make money. Now picture the opposite, like an 18th century farmhouse down a lane, 20 minutes from the nearest town. How much is that one worth? Well, it is impossible to tell with any accuracy because there's nothing else like it for miles. They can make a best guess and still be out by 50 or 100 grand and lose a fortune. Really risky for them, so not the sort of thing they like to touch. Secondly, they want something that is going to be quick to resell. So imagine that same 3-bed semi, loads of similar properties like it, loads of buyers. It's a very fluid market. And so they can be pretty confident that if they buy this and then price it fairly when they come to resell it, they'll find a buyer within a few weeks. It's pretty easy. It's pretty comfortable. What about for that farmhouse 20 minutes away? How long is that going to take to sell? Well, probably not 6 weeks. Could be 6 months. Could it be 12 months? Again, they don't really know. It's not going to be fast. And so again, the risk goes up, meaning their willingness to buy goes down. Third, they want something that is not too risky. And what I mean by that typically is price bracket. So from what I've seen over the years, they would rather buy 4 houses at 150 grand each than one house at 600 grand. Those expensive houses, it's a lot of eggs in one basket for them. And if they get that one wrong, they have big problems. So once you start seeing your house through their eyes, you can see if they're likely to make you an offer. And you can see as well how that promise of we buy any house, any condition can start to look really empty. So I know at this point, a lot of people kind of start thinking, well, hang on, the advert says it. We buy any house, any condition. How can they get away with not buying stuff when it's right there in black and white? It's a really fair point. So here's exactly how they can get away with it is simply that if anyone ever challenges them, they can say, I'll offer you £1. It sounds ridiculous, but that is the game. They can make a silly offer and say, well, we tried to buy it. We did make you an offer. You just chose not to take it. So the name is not a literal promise to buy any house. It's just marketing, and it acts as a shield as well. So moving on, what actually happens in the real world when they have a property that's not quite hitting those three things they want of easy to value, quick to resell, and not too risky? Well, essentially, it's a sliding scale. And imagine we have the simple properties up here, and the more complicated ones get further down the scale. There's 4 stages properties go through, and you can follow this and see where yours is likely to fit. So stage 1, best case scenario with these companies for the simplest homes is they will offer you 80% of your home's value, right? That's what one of the genuine companies will offer to give them room to cover their costs and make a profit. Stage 2, let's say we've got a few risk factors. Every risk factor you have chips away at that 80%. So if it's harder to value, 80% can become 75%. If it's more remote, 75 can become 70, and so on. Now, stage 3, sometimes the offer gets so low, they won't even want to say it out loud because they know it can make people furious. They get 1-star reviews and so on. So instead, they've kind of learned to just prefer to kind of politely refuse to offer and say, sorry, it's just not one for us. And then stage 4, sometimes your house is so far off what they want that they won't touch it at all. And if you were to really push them, that's when you'd get that kind of silly throwaway offer that no one would ever accept. So, We Buy Any House, it was never really true. It's a great name, it's a great claim, but it's just marketing. And that flat no that they give in that 4th stage, it isn't random. There are whole categories of property the biggest companies have banned outright and decided not to buy. And here's what surprises people most. Like, we're not talking about the dodgy little companies with not much money here. We're talking about the biggest and best funded companies in the country, the ones with the most cash and who can afford to take the most risk. They are the ones with these categories of properties that they flat out refuse to buy. So let me show you the 2 big ones so you can see if your property falls into them. So first, leasehold flats. Many major companies won't touch them, full stop. I know companies turning away tens of millions of pounds in revenue a year who've simply made a blanket decision of no flats. The reason is leasehold can be a nightmare for a quick turnaround. Sales can drag on. They can be more likely to fall through as well. You can get stuck holding something you can't shift. And remember, that whole model runs on speed. So flats, they have found, will tend to clog up the machine for them and cause more risks and headaches. So they just say no. Second, anything too expensive. So remember the third thing we said about not too many eggs in one basket. This is where that one bites. So a lot of companies have a hard ceiling, so often around 500 grand. Any more than that, and they're out. It's too much money for them in one basket. And remember again, like, these are the big companies, the ones with real cash. Smaller companies, in my experience, although I can't speak for all of them, less cash means even less appetite for that kind of risk. So if you've got a leasehold flat or a home worth more than about $500,000, you're often going to be outside their criteria completely. Doesn't mean you can't still sell quickly, so stay with me. But before we do talk about that, let's talk about properties where it is in an area that's easy to value. It should be quick to resell, but you've got some sort of other issue with it. Think subsidence or fire or flood damage or a nasty legal problem, the kind of place a normal buyer with a mortgage simply can't buy. Right, well, let me share what is perhaps the most important, most valuable part of this whole video, because if your property does have some sort of issue like this, might save you tens of thousands of pounds. So a lot of people will feel in that sort of situation, I know from speaking with people myself, they may feel that house buying companies are your only way out, the last resort. But actually, I personally feel they're probably the worst option you could pick in that situation. And in fact, you can almost always net tens of thousands more without too much extra effort. So how can you do that? Well, we've established that these companies are about quick turnovers. Buy, resell, profit, move on. But what happens when one of these companies buys a problem property like yours with serious issues? What do they actually do with it afterwards? Well, they don't fix it. Managing contractors all over the country logistically is a nightmare. Really expensive, not a guaranteed payoff. It's just not in the business of these big house buying companies to do that. And it's the same with resolving complicated legal issues and things. So what they actually do, for the most part, they chuck it straight into the next auction. I've watched it happen again and again, and here's why that matters. So when a property is sold at auction, it normally gets about 10 to 15% less than its full value. But remember, this company still wants to make their 20% margin to cover their costs and make a profit. And so all they'll do is knock it off that auction price. So we came down from here to here for the auction price and down here to the house buying company level. So what I call this is like the double whammy effect, and you end up taking this huge hit. The thing that makes this so crazy is you'd never actually see it, because all you get if you go direct to a company is that one low number with no idea of how they actually reached it. And so kind of, the most valuable thing in this entire video might be, if you've got a serious problem property, I would say don't go to a We Buy Any House company. Yes, they might still buy it, but it will be a rock bottom price and they'll just put it in an auction. So to get way more money, just go to that auction yourself. It's still a fast sale, faster than the open market, and you get straight in front of the exact buyers who actively want properties like yours. So cash investors, developers, people who fix problems for a living. You've just removed a middleman from taking a slice. And that's why you will almost always come out tens of thousands ahead of what a house buying company would have paid in that situation. Now, obviously, auction does still have its risks and downside. That is a matter for another video, but almost always you will be better off. So let's begin to wrap this up, and I'll show you how I can help you as well. So are these companies right for anyone? Well, yeah, there is a group of people it's right for, but it's kind of much smaller than their adverts and online presence would have you suggest. So really, these companies are for people who value speed, certainty, and convenience of a fast sale more than they value getting anything like a decent price for the property. There are people out there who do not care about the price. They just want to not think about it anymore. This is not most people. Like when sellers book a call, a call with me, a free advice call, and they're looking into house buying companies, I end up suggesting a different route that's better for them. It's something like 97% of the time, last time I looked at the stats, where that person's going to still sell. And it's situations where recommendations where that person is still going to be able to sell in their time frames, but with way more money at the end of it. So if you have reached the end of this video, what I would like to do is offer you a free call with me you can book it in the next couple of days. I put a link in the description, free 20 to 30 minute call with me. I'll ask about your priorities, property, and time frames, and I help you figure out what to do next. We have 250 reviews on Trustpilot that I'm really proud of. I'm showing you them here. There's no hard sell on this call. You'll come out with a clear plan of what to do next, like guaranteed. I guarantee you'll come out with a plan. I've done so many of these calls, and the feedback we get, as you can see, is really good. Like I'm really proud of these. And when I say guarantee it, like if we come off the phone and you don't think it was useful, just tell me and I'll donate £100 to a housing charity you choose. I would rather donate to them than waste your time. So genuinely, it's a we work really hard to make this a win-win. So happy to kind of take some time with you, figure out kind of the best next move. Thank you for watching, and chat with you soon.